So I recently did a couple posts on Instagram talking about what it means when everything at work suddenly pisses you off, and also what it really means when you start gossiping at work. And these posts went pretty viral. And so what it showed me is that there's a need to talk about what this actually really means, and hopefully provide some insight. And I wanted to do that today by telling you my own story of how I came to this realization because, I think it's really easy when you are in a work culture where everyone's complaining. Um, and it's easy just to say the work culture is toxic, especially if you're on LinkedIn. People are constantly talking about toxic work culture. And of course, you don't want that. But I always err on the side of like, yeah, it might be toxic, but what is my contribution to that? How did I end up here? And like, I can't change everyone else in the workplace. So, how can I change myself? And that might be changing my attitude. That might be removing myself from the culture. But I think before you go removing yourself, you really want to hold yourself accountable because if you don't reflect on what's going on within you first, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to duplicate it in the next place. And maybe you'll end up with a place where the boss is a little bit nicer and people are a little bit more friendly and cooperative and helpful and it's more of a team environment. Maybe, yeah. But some of those basic patterns that got you to the point of feeling pissed off, feeling overwhelmed, gossiping about people, if we don't come to terms with what that's really telling you, then you're probably just going to end up in a similar situation. Okay. And those are cues. Okay. If everyone at work is pissing you off, if you are gossiping about people, that is a cue from your body, from your internal state, from your psyche that, hey, something's not right. Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast, where high performers come to grow without stress, shame, or burning out. I'm Minh-Thu Lam, and I'm here to help you work smarter, live fuller, and feel like yourself again. If you're tired of running on empty, book your complimentary assessment call at higheralignmentconsulting.com/program, and let's figure out what's draining your energy and what you can do to start feeling happy and peaceful once again. You can find the link in the show notes. Now let's get into the episode. You know what I mean? Like why are you this concerned with other people's patterns and behaviors, and like why aren't you more concerned with yourself? Right? Like it's honestly just a sign of dysregulation. Okay? And I'm going to lay this out for you now on how this played out in my life and how I came to this realization, okay? So, I worked at a place before I started my business now before I was in the coaching space. I worked at the same place for about 9 years and I had a great career there. And I'm still very grateful for it and friends with a lot of people who still work there, still send them business. Like, so grateful for my time there. However, there is a point in my career where I found myself gossiping a lot about a particular individual, and we're going to call him Jimmy. Okay. And during my time there, I think there was a steady pace of gossip, but there was one particular time where I was just like, I couldn't I couldn't control myself. Just every chance I had, I was bitching about Jimmy. Okay. So for context, me and this individual worked very close together. And so essentially whenever something needed to be fixed or covered, it was me and Jimmy doing the work together. Okay. And Jimmy is a great guy with a great heart, but he was going through some personal things. And so a lot of his work was slipping. There were some mistakes there. Okay. And so, what I found myself doing was knowing what he was going through with his personal life. I was like, okay, I'm just going to cover it for him. I'm just going to fix everything for him. But I didn't want to tell my superiors what was going on because I didn't want Jimmy to get any backlash from this because I knew he was going through a lot in his personal life. Okay. So I was just covering and cleaning up his mistakes and doing all these things, and it was getting to me. Okay. It was getting to me because not only was I dealing with my own burnout at that time, but now I was having to make up for someone else's what I was looking at mistakes or just not being on top of things. And so what ended up happening was I would bitch and complain to anyone who would listen. Okay. Anyone who is at equal level to me or higher. I should say that. I wasn't complaining down. Everyone knows who the corporate structure is. You shouldn't really do that. But you shouldn't complain or gossip or bitch at all. But like anyone who I felt safe with was getting it. I was going in on Jimmy. Okay, why did he fix this? Why didn't he do this? Why did he okay? And I was gossiping so much, okay? But I wasn't telling Jimmy. Like I wasn't just going to Jimmy and saying like, "Hey Jimmy, I need you to fix your paperwork. Hey Jimmy, I need you to call this person back. Hey Jimmy." I was in my head creating this story, well, he's got so much on his plate with his personal life that he's not going to be able to handle this, so I'm just going to take it on myself, okay? Side note, that's like the gift and curse of a high performer. You're willing to do what most people won't, so I'm willing to step up and cover for Jimmy, but then B, it's coming at the expense of my well-being, and all that's doing is creating tension and resentment in a relationship. Like it's not even Jimmy's fault in this case, it's mine because I'm not handling this well. So anyways, I'm not even telling Jimmy how I'm feeling, or I'm not even telling Jimmy about his mistakes. That's the worst thing. I'm just taking it on and fixing it and doing it all myself, and it's like I'm not even letting Jimmy in the know, okay? And so I'm going to be honest, guys, this went on for months. I'm not proud to say it, but I went on like a solid 3 months of complaining and bitching and not telling him how I felt or what was going on. Okay. And I felt like I would just go from office to office to talk about this. And eventually one day I just stopped and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I feel gross about myself, the fact that I'm doing this. B, I'm not creating it. I'm contributing to the toxicity because here I am just bitching and complaining. I'm not addressing the situation head on. And C, like again, I'm creating resentment in a relationship, but he doesn't even know what's happening. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he's consciously going, let me make this mistake for Mintu to fix it. In his mind, he's dealing with the capacity he has. He's doing his work and then he's getting out of there and he's not realizing that he's making the mistakes. We never really realize when we make the mistakes, guys, right? Like I do err on the side that majority of humans have a good heart. And so if you're making a mistake, it's not maliciously intent. Or you're not purposely doing it. It's because you're distracted or dysregulated or whatever the case, right? So I'm not even giving Jimmy the opportunity to like rectify the situation. I'm just taking it on, I'm bitching about it, and I'm just honestly upset with myself, right? So I finally had this epiphany one day and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I just need to talk to him about it. And, even just the idea of talking to him about it, I was so worried and I was scared. And like, because I didn't want to upset him, because I knew he had a lot of things going on at home and I didn't want to upset him or make him feel worse about himself, or more importantly, disrupt the team that we had because I really enjoyed working with him. And so one day I just had to pick up my big girl pants and I went and sat down and I told him and I just said, hey, like this has been happening and there's been lots of mistakes made and I know you have a lot going on. And the first thing he said to me? He said, Mintu, why didn't you come to me sooner? He didn't get offended. He didn't try to make any excuses. He just said, why didn't you tell me sooner? And in that moment, I felt like such a doofus. You know what I mean? It's like exactly. Why didn't I come to you sooner? Why didn't I just talk to you about it? And from there moving forward, it was fine. He was on top of his stuff. I was more communicative when things were up. Like it just made our relationship so much healthier. Okay. But when I look back on that and during that time where I was bitching and complaining, I wasn't actually mad at Jimmy. Okay. My source of contention, what was really bothering me was the fact that I didn't have the capacity to set boundaries for myself. I didn't have the capacity to speak up for myself. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I was taking on more than I should have been. And I wasn't saying anything about it. That's who I was really upset with. Poor guy didn't even know what was going on, and here I'm creating him, making him the villain of my story when really it was me. And so I'm hoping you can relate to this, or that's at least what I'm seeing in the feedback I'm getting from these posts that I posted. But like if you're really getting pissed off about everything at work, if you're gossiping a lot, that has nothing to do with them, and it has everything to do with where you are unsettled and disconnected within yourself. Okay? And I'll use that even for comparison. When you're in a happy mood, you don't even think about what people are doing wrong. Right? Like when you life's good, when you just like I don't know, when you just won something, when you just hit a major goal, when you just get in a new relationship, like the relationship's honestly one of the best examples because think of how many red flags you ignore in the beginning. I mean, hopefully not all the time. I'm joking, kind of, sort of, been there. But like, when things are good and you're feeling great, you don't even look for the red flags. You don't even look for the negativity because you don't want to like mess up your vibe. You want to stay on in that place. And so when you're becoming hyper fixated on other people and their mistakes and what they're doing wrong and their opinions, that's just a sign that you've become so disconnected from yourself that even a matter of difference in opinion or how someone's living their life is enough to rock your world. You're not even grounded enough or confident enough or powerful enough to just not even let it bother you. And like the internet is a primary example of this, social media. How many dysregulated people are in the comments? Okay. The comment sections, even DMs. I've had some people telling me I'm the problem when it comes to burnout. Like, and I'm like, what? You're following me. You're liking my content and I'm the problem. Like it's crazy. And I don't say this out of judgment. I say this out of like, again, if things are affecting you to this point, that is a sign that you're dysregulated and disconnected from yourself. Okay. Things like COVID and the vaccine, things like the political landscape. Like I realize these have big impacts on all of us. But the reality is 50% of people are going to vote this way and 50% of people are going to vote this way. And like, yeah, okay, you can be upset with the election. You can be upset with the mandates. But at the end of the day, you're going to cancel people. You're not going to interact with people just because they sit on the opposite side of the fence. And I get it. Some of these issues are bigger. We're talking about women's reproductive rights. We're talking about, you know, so many different things. But again, like obviously we can't control people and what they want, and that's not I don't think that's a world we should strive to be in anyways, because if we all agree, then what's the point of all this, right? If we're always on the same page, what's the point of all this, right? But like if someone doesn't agree with you, do you have the capacity just to respect their decision, respect that they are a human being with completely different experiences than you, and maybe even get curious about why they think different instead of attacking them or cutting them off right away. Maybe ask some questions to help you understand why they sit on the other side of the fence than you, instead of just getting so dysregulated and getting your panties in a knot. Like all that's doing is showing how to out of touch you are from yourself, you know? And we're in a culture right now where we get so easily offended, but that's because we're so dysregulated. That's it. Point blank, period. The easierly, that's not a word. The easier you are to be able to get triggered, that's just a sign that you're more dysregulated. Okay? That's it. And I don't want to say that to you because you should take that as a sign of wow, then that means I can do something about this. Okay? I don't know one person that constantly likes to be triggered, whether it be about politics or medical mandates or vaccines or equal rights or race, whatever it is. Okay. No one likes to be in that activated, triggered state. And you might have now created a story of like, yeah, I'm fighting the power. This is what I do. But if it's causing anxiety in your body, if it's causing you to like lash out at people, if it's causing you to project and cut off relationships and be very one-sided and cross your arms all the time and think that everyone's against you, like really? Do you really like being in that state? I'm going to bet no, because all that's full of is survival mode, fear, scarcity. Like you can't be an abundant, powerful being in that state. You just can't. Fight me. I like honestly, you can't. And so If you want to live a life where you're feeling more free, if you want to be happier and more at peace and confident and powerful, then you need to start with your own nervous system. You have to start with managing your own stress. Okay. And so back to the original example, whether it's work, whether it's your family dynamics, whether it's social media, if you find yourself getting constantly activated and stressed out about these things, do something about it within. Don't go trying to control everyone else around you, because I can tell you that's not going to go well. Focus on what's going on within you. And and just so you know, that doesn't mean you don't have things that you stand for. That doesn't mean you don't have morals or beliefs. Absolutely hold on to those. Those are important. But also know that they do shift and evolve. I've had many that have shifted and evolved as the more I've become aware of to what's happening in the world and all the things that are going on. So be open to the fact they're going to shift. And and then the other side of that is be open to the fact that, like, all right, if you're a burnt out executive or high performer, chances are you're on a 3 to 4 month cycle of burnout, meaning the first few months you're high energy, productive, and making it happen. And then once that third or fourth month sets in, you're exhausted, irritable, snappy, and ready to give it all up. Now, there are two main reasons you get stuck in this cycle that no one talks about when it comes to stress management information out there. So I've put this together in a short video called The Real Reason You're Burnt Out. I put it in the show note links, so take the 12 minutes to watch this video and let this be the first step to you getting off this hamster wheel of burnout. All right, guys, back to the episode. You can't be defined by strictly those, okay? And you have to be able to hold capacity for people and their beliefs and understandings just like you do for yourself. Okay. But the good news about this is, because this all stems from being dysregulated, because it all stems from your nervous system being shot, essentially, you have the power to fix that. You have the power to restore it, to refuel yourself, to get to a place where you're more balanced, so that no matter what anyone says, yeah, you're still going to have moments of it. But no matter what anyone says, you're able to hold space for yourself and you're able to hold space for them, even if it's at a distance. I can tell you one more example that I had, like when I was working at my old place of work. The reception had called me to the front desk because there was a client there or a customer there who needed help. And when I walked up to the counter, he essentially said that he didn't want to work with a woman. And that was this was like 5 years ago, guys. So this is recent. Well, whatever. And I could have easily gotten offended. I could have easily been like, well, let me tell you, I'm one of the best people here, blah, blah, blah. I just said, cool, bro. Well, I don't want to work with anyone who doesn't want to work with a woman. And I left. And then I got one of my colleagues said, oh, he wants to deal with a man. So there you go. Like nothing in me was like, I need to fight for my rights. I need to prove this guy wrong. Like, buddy, if that's what you believe, if you don't want to work with a woman, cool. That's the life you want to live. I don't want to work with people who don't want to work with women. So guess what? We don't have to cross paths. But that didn't take me out of my cool and calm and collective. That didn't upset my day. That didn't throw me off my game. I just went about my day and dealt with my other stuff. Like, it was cool. And so I'm not saying that in every situation it's not going to like trigger you a little bit, but what I will say is, if triggers are coming up, if you feel the need to prove yourself, to make that person wrong, like that should be your cue, like, hey, I'm disconnected from myself. I'm not managing my stress properly. I'm out of sorts and I need to get that under control first. I need to get back into alignment and connection with myself before I decide if I'm going to address that. And if you still feel the need to address that after you've taken a walk, after you've slept on it, after you put some food in your belly, and you can talk about it from a space where you're calm and you can hold, again, both sides of the fence, you can hold space for their opinion, you can hold space for yours, then cool, do that. Like, we need more of that right now. We need more people being able to have like constructive conversations where they don't agree, but that's okay, right? Instead of everyone walking on eggshells. Like that's what you want to strive for. Okay? So this can also be applied to even if in your relationships, like if you're getting hyper fixated on what your partner is or isn't doing, I'm not saying that they just get to treat you like crap now and they don't get to show up, but just ask yourself, like, is this something that actually is like reflective of their character and how they treat me? Or is this just like something I want to control? And if it's something that you want to control, then you got to throw that back on yourself. So why do I feel the need to control them if they're still showing up as a great partner and they're loving me? Like, why do I need to control their morning routine or what they're eating or whatever, what the clothes are wearing, whatever, right? If you're at that point, then you got to, again, you got to look in the mirror and turn it back on yourself and say, okay, where am I out of sorts? Where am I dysregulated? Maybe I need some sleep. Maybe I need to eat something different for lunch. Like, put it back on you. And that's not always the easiest thing to do because you got to ask yourself some tough, vulnerable questions. But I will tell you is that's the most powerful position to be in because, again, you can actually control it and you can do something about it. We can't control people. We can't change the agendas of the world or of the government or anything like that. But what you can do is like have a better relationship with yourself. You can be in alignment with yourself. You can be more regulated. And honestly, that's the most honorable thing you can do for the planet, for humanity. If you really want to talk about it, fighting for rights, fighting, like protesting. Okay, cool. If you can do that from a regulated space, great. But if you're doing that out of fear and scarcity, like, sorry, I'm gonna be honest. I think the best thing that you can do for your fellow human, whoever it is to be the best version of yourself. And that means being emotionally regulated, mentally regulated, physically regulated. Because when you're that, you're better for everybody else. You're better for yourself, you're better for your relationships, and you're better just for the greater good. Okay. So if there's any points of contention in your life right now, again, maybe it's too much social media triggers, maybe it's gossiping about someone at work, maybe you got a Jimmy. Like, do yourself a favor and put the mirror back on you. And not from a place of harsh judgment or shaming yourself, but from a place of where do I need to reconnect with myself so that I can take my power back and I can focus on what makes me happy, what's going to get me ahead, the goals that I want to accomplish, how I can become more healthy, right? Forget the guy in the comment section. That guy probably hasn't done his laundry in 3 weeks and hasn't drank any water today. Focus on you. Okay. What can you do to make yourself better? And I promise you, when you start looking at life from that lens, again, you feel more powerful and sky's the limit. As honestly as like cliche as it sounds, this is when you really see what life's about. This is when you really get to see your full potential and when you get to really figure out what is the true meaning of life. Because I guarantee you it's not being triggered by all these things. But if you are being triggered by all these things, that's your first clue on how to fix it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. If you got something out of this episode, I would ask that you please go subscribe and leave the podcast a 5-star review so that it can help find its way to other people who are having a hard time and need support. My mission in life is to help executives realize that you don't need to suffer in silence while still performing at a high level. I want to help free people of the heavy pressure they carry on a day-to-day basis, and having more people listen to this podcast will do just that. So wherever you listen to this, please go leave it a 5-star review, hit subscribe so you never miss another episode, and we'll see you in the next one.